The lake house was supposed to be my sanctuary. After 3 years of grinding through debt, I finally bought it back from my grandfather's estate. It was the only place left where I could still feel Sarah's presence. She had been gone for 2 years now, taken in a car accident that still haunted my dreams. Every corner of that house held memories of us painting walls together, planting trees in the yard, planning a future that would never come. One Saturday morning in June, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Henderson, my neighbor. Her voice trembled as she told me there were strange noises coming from my property. My chest tightened. I was 3 hours away in the city. Before I tell you what I found when I drove back there, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe because you will not want to miss what happens next. Trust me, what I discovered that day changed everything I thought I knew about family loyalty and boundaries. The truth I uncovered was worse than anything I could have imagined. I barely remember the drive back. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles turned white. Every mile felt like an eternity. I kept thinking someone had broken in, maybe vandals or thieves looking for easy targets in the rural area. I called the local police station, but the officer on duty said there had been no reports of suspicious activity. That should have calmed me down, but it did not. Something felt wrong in my gut. As I drove, my mind drifted to Sarah. We had spent an entire summer fixing up that house together. She had picked out the soft blue paint for the bedroom because it reminded her of the lake at dawn. We had refinished the oak coffee table my grandfather left behind, sanding it down and applying layer after layer of varnish until it gleamed. On our last anniversary before the accident, we had carved our names into the wooden accent wall in the living room. She had laughed when the knife slipped and made the letters uneven. I had kissed her and told her it was perfect anyway. That house was not just property. It was the last physical connection I had to the woman I loved. When I finally pulled into the driveway around late afternoon, I saw a pickup truck I did not recognize parked near the entrance. My heart started pounding even harder. I got out of my car, slowly listening. The sound of power tools echoed from inside. A drill whined. A hammer struck wood in rhythmic beats. The sharp smell of fresh paint and sawdust hit my nose as I approached the front door. None of this made sense. I had not hired anyone. I had not given permission for any work to be done. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The noise got louder. My living room looked like a construction zone. Dust covered everything. Tools and materials were scattered across the floor. Then I saw them. My father, Gerald, stood in the middle of the chaos, pointing at the accent wall and giving instructions to 2 workers in paint-stained overalls. My mother, Patricia, was near the window holding up paint swatches and chatting cheerfully with another contractor about color choices. The wooden wall, the one with our names carved into it, was half demolished. Chunks of wood lay in a pile on the floor. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. My furniture, the old sofa where Sarah and I had spent countless evenings reading together, was shoved outside in the yard. The oak coffee table my grandfather made with his own hands sat next to it, covered in a tarp. They had already changed the entire layout of the room. The vintage windows Sarah loved had been removed, replaced by large, modern glass panels that looked cold and sterile. This was not my house anymore. This was something else entirely. What the hell is going on here? My voice came out louder than I intended, cutting through the noise of the power tools. My parents jumped. Patricia turned around with a bright smile, like I had just walked in on a surprise birthday party instead of the destruction of my home. "Oh, honey, you are here. We wanted to surprise you." Gerald set down the clipboard he was holding and walked toward me with his arms spread wide. "We are updating this place." It was looking too old-fashioned. "Thought we would help you out." I could barely process what they were saying. "Who gave you permission to do this?" Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "We thought you would be thrilled. The house needed modernizing. We are doing you a favor." I pointed at the demolished wall, my hand shaking. That wall had our names on it. Sarah and I carved that together. My mother's smile faltered for just a second before she recovered. Well, it was old wood anyway. "The new design will be much better. You will love it once it is finished." Gerald stepped closer, his tone taking on that patronizing quality I had heard my entire childhood. "We are your parents. We know what is best. This place needed work, and we are making it happen." Something clicked in my mind. "How did you even get in here?" Patricia pulled a key from her pocket. "The spare key you gave us for emergencies, remember?" "Emergencies," I repeated slowly. "This is not an emergency." Gerald crossed his arms. "We have been planning this for 2 weeks. Hired the contractors, bought all the materials, coordinated the whole thing. You should be grateful. 2 weeks. My voice rose again. You have been planning to tear apart my house for 2 weeks, and did not think to ask me first. Patricia's expression hardened. You would have said no. You are too attached to the past, Brennan. It is not healthy. I looked around at the destruction again. The workers had stopped what they were doing and were watching us uncomfortably. I want everyone to stop right now. Put down your tools and leave. Gerald stepped in front of me. We are not stopping. We have already invested thousands of dollars into this. You are being unreasonable. This is my house, I was shouting now. I bought this with my own money. You have no right to be here doing any of this. Patricia played her trump card. Do not be ungrateful. We are spending our retirement savings on making this place beautiful for you. We did this out of love. You will thank us later. But I was already walking through the rest of the house, my anger building with every step. I pushed open the bedroom door. The soft blue walls Sarah had chosen were gone, covered over with beige paint that was still drying. The smell of it made me nauseous. I went to the bathroom. The vintage clawfoot tub, the one Sarah used to soak in while reading her books, had been torn out. A modern shower enclosure sat in boxes waiting to be installed. I walked out to the backyard, hoping maybe they had not touched anything there. My stomach dropped. The maple tree Sarah had planted on our first anniversary was gone. Just a stump remained where it used to stand. I turned to see my mother had followed me outside. We had to remove that tree, she said calmly. It was blocking the view of the lake. The new deck will be stunning once it is done. I went to the garage. My grandfather's handmade bookshelf, the one that had held his collection of fishing magazines and old novels, was tossed carelessly in the corner. Family photos that used to hang on the walls were shoved into a cardboard box, some of the frames cracked. I picked up one photo. It was from my wedding day. Sarah's face smiled up at me from behind broken glass. I walked back inside and found my parents waiting in what used to be the living room. We need to talk. Now. Gerald sighed like I was being a difficult child. What is there to talk about? We are helping you. How much have you spent on this? I demanded. Patricia exchanged a glance with Gerald. Around $15,000, give or take. $15,000 that I did not ask you to spend. On work I did not authorize. In my house that you entered without permission. Oh, stop being so dramatic, my mother snapped. We had the key. That means we had permission. No. I kept my voice steady even though I was screaming inside. That key was for emergencies, not for you to stage a hostile takeover of my property. That was when my father finally said what they had been dancing around. We want to use the lake house in the summers. We have retired now, and we need a vacation spot. You are barely here anyway. It makes sense for us to fix it up so we can all enjoy it. There it was, the real reason. This is not a vacation house. This is my home. I bought it. I own it. Patricia stepped forward, her voice taking on an edge. Technically, your grandfather left it to the family. You just bought out our shares. And now that we have invested our own money into improving it, we have a right to use it. I stared at them both. You think because you spent money I did not ask you to spend on renovations. I did not want that gives you ownership rights. Gerald nodded like this was perfectly logical. We have told our friends about our summer house by the lake. We have plans for July. Some of our book club is coming to visit. Your book club, I said it flatly. You have already invited people here. To my house. It is a family house, Patricia insisted. Family shares. That is what families do. No. My voice was hard now. Families respect boundaries. Families ask permission. They do not break in and destroy things that matter to the people they supposedly love. My father's face reddened. You are being selfish. After everything we did for you growing up. We raised you. We paid for part of your college. This is how you repay us. I had heard this song before. The guilt trip. The manipulation. I paid back every cent of those student loans myself. I worked 10 years to save enough money to buy this house outright. You do not get to use parenting as leverage to take what is mine. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. Real or fake, I could not tell anymore. We are your parents. We deserve respect and access to this place. We deserve to enjoy our retirement, then buy your own vacation house. I turned away from them. I want both of you out. Now, that was when my mother said the words that broke something inside me. Sarah would be ashamed of how you are treating us right now. The room went silent. Even the contractors had stopped working completely. I turned back slowly. What did you just say? Patricia lifted her chin defiantly. Sarah would not want you acting like this. She would want you to share with family. The anger that had been simmering inside me reached a boiling point. Do not you dare speak about my wife. Sarah never liked the way you constantly interfered in our lives. She was too polite to say it to your face, but I know the truth. Gerald took a step forward. That is enough. No. I was done holding back. You want to talk about Sarah, fine. Let me remind you of some things. Mom, you criticized everything she did. Her cooking was not good enough. Her housekeeping was not up to your standards. Her career choices were not practical. And you, Dad, you told me right before our wedding that she was not good enough for me, that I could do better. Patricia's face went pale. That is not fair. And when she died, I continued, my voice breaking slightly, when my wife was killed in that accident. You know what you did. You did not come to the funeral. You said you were busy with family stuff. What family? I am your son, and my wife had just died. Neither of them said anything. The truth hung in the air between us. Now you dare to use her name to manipulate me, to justify tearing apart the one place where I can still feel close to her. That is unforgivable. I walked to the door and held it open. Get out. Tell your contractors to stop. Get out of my house right now. Patricia gathered her purse. As she did, something fell out. Papers scattered across the floor. I bent down and picked them up before she could stop me. My blood ran cold as I read the heading on the first page. It was a legal consultation document about adverse possession and family property rights. There were notes in my mother's handwriting about how long they would need to occupy and improve the property to make a legal claim. What is this? I held up the papers. Gerald tried to grab them from me. That is private. I pulled back and kept reading. There were printed emails, too. Between my mother and my sister Diane, who lived in California and barely kept in touch. They were discussing how to split the lake house, how if they modernized it, the value would increase, how they could eventually force me to sell and divide the proceeds. This was never about helping me. This was never about family bonding or vacation plans. This was a calculated attempt to take my property. You planned this. I looked at both of them. This whole thing was a scheme to steal my house. Patricia reached for the papers again. You are twisting things. We were just exploring options to protect family assets. Family assets, I laughed, but there was no humor in it. This is my asset, mine alone. I have the deed. I paid every mortgage payment, and you have been consulting lawyers about how to take it from me. Gerald tried a different tactic. If you do this, if you force us out and make a scene, you will lose your entire family. Diane will never forgive you. Your aunts and uncles will take our side. You will be alone. I looked at the destruction around me one more time. At the demolished wall where Sarah's and my names used to be. At the paint covering the colors she chose. At the empty space where her tree used to grow. Then I will be alone, I said quietly. But I will have my dignity. And my boundaries. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer, Marcus Flynn. He answered on the second ring. I explained the situation while my parents stood there watching. Marcus confirmed what I already knew.